Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga. And I'm going to, instead of pulling from a jar, I had a question asked to me about what was meant by a statement made in the Bhagavad Gita when Lord Krishna was talking to Arjuna about what a true yogi was. And Vivekananda, more of a contemporary yogi, I think he died somewhere in the late 1800s, and he only had a short life, and he spent maybe 10 years traveling abroad. One of the first yogis actually to come to America and do his teaching before Yogananda. And he wrote some beautiful passages. He was an amazing poet, actually. And his translation of, I don't know if it was chapter 6 or chapter 12, or you find this in the Gita, but his translation of what a true yogi was written in one of his books called Meditation, and its methods. It was put out in 2019, I believe. I just have the Kindle edition. So I'm going to begin by reading what that passage is and then briefly discussing it with you, so we all have an understanding of how Vivekananda viewed a translation of the Gita in reference to what a true yogi is. So the quoted passage is this: "He who hates none, who is the friend of all, who is merciful to all, who has nothing of his own, who is free from egoism, who is even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing, who is always satisfied, who works always in yoga, whose self has become controlled, whose will is firm, whose mind and intellect are given up unto me, such a one is my beloved Bhakta, from whom comes no disturbance, who cannot be disturbed by others, who is free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety. Such a one is my beloved. He who does not depend on anything, he who is pure and active, who does not care whether good or evil comes, and never becomes miserable, who has given up all efforts for himself, who is the same in praise or in blame, with a silent, thoughtful mind, blessed with what little comes in his way, homeless, for the whole world is his home, and who is steady in his ideas. Such a one is my beloved Bhakta. Such alone becomes yogis." So let's look at that passage a little bit and decipher what it means. It begins, the signs of yogi, according to Vivekananda's interpretation of this part of the Gita, is, first of all, he who hates none. So we're going to try to get past the gender-specific pronoun that's often used. Again, he was a yogi in his time, and most women were not considered true yogis then. There was a few that were able to be considered saintly even, but it was actually a realm for men, as men dominated the society in India, just as they dominated the society elsewhere for periods of time before women had their rights asserted. Regardless, the he is used in this, so we're going to think of it as a representation of the time. He who hates none, so there's no hatred in a yogi, no hating. He who is the friend of all, so finding friendliness with all, not judging anybody, not saying who's good or bad, right or wrong, should be or shouldn't be, just befriending all, seeing the goodness in all. He who is merciful to all, forgiving, seeing the need for forgiveness, seeing, that the term sin, which actually means to miss the mark, is just a lack of consciousness or a lack of an ability to make good decisions. Who is free from egoism, of course. It's a person who's been able to ascend the ego, the idea, the psyche, the personal self, and what it demands. who is even-minded in pain and pleasure. One who stays stable, stays seated in the seat of consciousness, is not disturbed by, is not pulled in to these things we call good or bad or good or evil. Is first of all not judging them as good or bad, realizing that it's just thinking that makes them good or bad, and is not pulled into that part of the dualistic drama of being a human, has gone beyond it. So pain is recognizing pain as a part of life, recognizing that pleasure is a part of life, and they are two intertwining strands in the tapestry that makes up our life. So they are, even-minded in pain and pleasure. Who is forbearing, strong, continuing forward, recognizing their goal and not giving up on it. Who is always satisfied, not needing anything from the external world to fill in holes or, no desires, no cravings, just satisfied with what is, content to be who they are, exactly where they are, and doing what they're doing at that time. Who works always in yoga, whose main goal is always to strive towards their sadhana, their practice, their becoming truly enlightened, their self-realization, the higher goals, the higher self. Whose self has been controlled. So the self here in this little translation is a lowercase s, so we know we're talking about the lower self. They have been able to control their minds to the extent of controlling their distractions, controlling that pull downward into lower consciousness. They've been able to control that part. And that takes great practice. Whose will is firm, so they're using the will, using this power of focused attention of the mind and focusing in on that which is important, the self-realization goal that they're striving, and holding firm to that goal, not straying from it to fall back and be pulled back down into lower self's mission, which is usually involves the ego and satisfying egoic needs. Whose mind and intellect are given up unto me. It's a capital M. So this is Lord Krishna talking to Arjuna. So he's talking about the high, God in a sense. So when we give up all that we are to God, both our intellect and our mind to God, and willing to get beyond conceptual knowledge, egoic ideas and drama, to the higher consciousness that is witnessing all this, and we fall back into that, then we are true yogis. Such a one is my beloved Bhakta. So Bhakta is a devotee, is a person who is devoted to worshiping God, devoted to serving God. So it's a worshiper, I guess, more so than anything. A faithful person is a bhakta, and that is what a yogi is. From whom comes no disturbance. So there's no disturbance coming from this person. They're not creating disturbance in the world. They're like not hurting the world in any way, and they, and then it says, who cannot be disturbed. So not only are they disturbing others or not hurting others, they themselves cannot be disturbed. They're in a state of equanimity, a state of stable repose, of grace, and nothing disturbs them. They're not disturbed by anything that's happening out there. Not disturbed by others. Who is free, and this is important, free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety. So we have a mixture of emotions in this little statement. We have joy to begin with, which is what we consider a positive emotion, and we want all to experience that. But this person is free from it, freed from that, as well as from anger, fear, and anxiety, which we consider to be negative emotions. Here we see the equanimity of emotions. There is no emotion that's good or bad. It's just thinking that makes them so. These are just emotions, just waves or vibrations in the field. and they come in and come out. And so there's no judgment here in this statement. So a yogi doesn't judge either emotion, either joy or anxiety, as being good or bad. They're just the same vibration. And when the author says here that the yogi is free from these, meaning that he's not attached to them. He's not seeking joy or dependent on joy. She's not seeking joy or dependent on joy. They are not seeking or dependent on joy. They are simply willing to experience whatever emotion is there as it comes through, and they're open and clean and spacious for that emotion to pass through without any attachment to it, without any aversion to it. So there's no judgment of emotion as being good or bad. Is my beloved, again, the person who God loves, and the person who loves God is this yogi, this person who's able to remain equanimous. He who does not depend on anything. So not only are we not depending on anything, not attached to anything, we're not depending on it for our survival. There is a faith here, a faith that life is happening exactly as it's happening, and there's nothing that has to be done about it, and there's nothing that we need from life. We are just here to give to life. So this person is, not dependent on anything, I guess, if we can use the Christian terminology, other than the Word of God. Who is pure and active. So this person is pure, clean. They're not stuffed with samskaras. They're not stuffed with repressed and suppressed memories or emotional experiences that we felt too painful or felt we couldn't handle at the time. They are completely free and open and spacious to allow all of life to come in and all of life to go out. At the same time, they are active. They are acting in life. They are serving life. So they're not sitting back idle and expecting to be served. Who does not care whether good comes or evil. And there is no fear of good or evil here. There's no fear of bad or right, or should be or shouldn't be. There is no judgment of either. Whatever comes, comes. And it's just a matter of accepting life as it is. And it takes a great high state to be able to accept both the good and the so-called evil, and to realize, first of all, that there is no distinction between the two. And never becomes miserable. Never, ever are they reacting to life circumstance. They are strong and stable in the seat of consciousness when a storm hits. They are calm and stable and seated in the seat of consciousness when it's beautiful sunshiny day, when people are coming into their lives, when people are leaving their lives, through death, through pains, through suffering. They remain non-miserable, happy and joyous just as they are, peaceful. So the opposite of miserable would be peaceful. It's that stable, equanimous, emotional state of being. Who has given up all efforts for himself. So no longer is this person trying to serve himself, herself, their self. They are, a true yogi is here to serve life. When life comes in, they say, how can I serve? What can I do to help? Rather than what can I get from life? So this idea of serving the ego and meeting its needs, getting the right job, meeting the right person, earning so much money, all that is not important to the true yogi. They are not here to serve self. So the self actually diminishes the more the person progresses into the state of yogihood. They no longer see the self, the little self, as anything that's worthy of being served. It is all about the greater self, true self-realization. My book just kind of went off on me. Okay. Who is the same in praise or in blame? So it's like the no matter what principle. You can come and you can tell me off, and if I was a true yogi, I would be perfectly okay with that. I would say, oh wow, isn't that something? Look at the energy that you're bringing into this. Wow. You could come and tell me I'm the most wonderful person in the world, and I will not get all swollen headed, and I would not be blushing with, oh wow, oh she likes me, she really likes me. It would be more just it doesn't matter if you like me or don't like me, if you praise me or you blame me. I still feel your energy, and I'm impressed and grateful for both. And I can see in you who you truly are, despite what you see in me. So that's what a true yogi looks at when they get either praise or blame. They're not proud in either way, nor are they ashamed. With a silent, thoughtful mind, a true yogi doesn't need to talk a lot. A true yogi doesn't need to express a lot. But the mind is always working, and always, in the truest sense, it's not full of all the chaos. Most of our minds are filled up with the 60,000 plus thoughts a day that most of us have running around in our heads like loop recorders. Their mind is pure and clean, but there are still thoughts, and they're aware thoughts are coming through. They are very mindful in that sense, very thoughtful in the sense that we see that they are conscientious and aware, conscious and aware of everything that's happening around them. But they don't need to express it or narrate it or do anything. It's simply just allowing all that to come in and to blow out. They are blessed with what little comes in his way. So they feel blessed when obstacles come in front of them. They feel blessed when the path is clear. They feel blessed when they are giving a lot of grace and receive abundance. They feel blessed when all that abundance is taken away. So there's a sense of being blessed regardless of what is happening on their path. Each and every milestone is considered a blessing, whether it be in the form of an obstacle or an advantage. Homeless, meaning that they have no true home. Their home is everywhere. They don't need a home. Their home is the self itself. For the whole world is his home. They see that there's no geographical borders, no, property lines, no anything like that. Everything is shared. The world, as most of the indigenous people would say, the land we walk on belongs to no one. So it belongs to everyone. So we can see that in this statement as well. And who is steady in his ideas, meaning that their ideas, they're not fixed to their ideas, and they're not lost in ideas, concepts, and beliefs. These are true ideas that will not fluctuate like most of our ideas and beliefs will. They are truths more than ideas, and they will hold firm to those truths. Such a one is my beloved Bhakta. Again, this is what a true yogi is. A true devotee to God is. A true devotee to the process of self-realization and oneness is. So that is what that beautiful statement from Vivekananda, which came, I believe, from the Gita, is all about. And I put up a little thing up there on top of this blog page to have you read it, because I do think it is very beautiful. And whenever you're in the process of considering yourself a yogi or becoming a yogi, like I have spent the last 25 years devoting my life to, not so much devoting at the beginning, but right now I am devoted to becoming a yogi, to reaching that state of bhakti that Lord Krishna gave the signs for. I to listen to that sign. It just keeps me on path and keeps me on course. Well, anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing and wonderful day. It's snowy out there. We're getting a bit of a late or early spring snowstorm, which is okay. It happens. It's like, to me, when I look at a snowstorm in spring as an aging dancer trying to do one more final performance on stage before the younger performers come on. And that kind of relates to me. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day. Namaste.